Okay. Well, Daphne, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for attending this podcast, right? This is one of our first times as well. And we're going to continue to do this, right? To bring different topics into these podcasts that are relatable to the audience, right? As students, and we're going to have educators. We're going to have people that work for government agencies, for grant agencies that can really see what the benefits are of vocational training here in the community. Okay, so that's basically what we're here. If you want to introduce yourself, tell us your name and a little bit about you.
Sure. Thank you for having me, by the way.
You're
This is
more
pretty
than
cool.
welcome.
My name is Daphne. I'm 26 and I just started welding school not that long ago, but I'm very enjoying it a lot.
Awesome, awesome. So right before we get into the welding topics, though, what do you currently do?
I'm currently an EMT basic with an ambulance transport service. So we do medical transfers for pediatric patients mainly, but I've been in the field for about 5 years, and my first 2.5 years I did emergencies. So I've been, doing it for some time.
And what do you do now?
Right now, that just the medical transfers. So
Okay.
still with the ambulances, but non-emergent.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. That's cool. And do you like it, or what, Why the change of
Career,
vocation? Yeah,
yeah.
career. It's so
So
drastic.
I do like it. Don't get me wrong, but you can only grow so much in EMS. You basically go by by your schooling. So whenever you get certified, if you want to keep growing, let's say you want to be a paramedic one day or a supervisor, then you can definitely go back to school, get your schooling for that and stuff. But I don't know. I don't see myself being a paramedic, but I also don't see myself being an EMT basic forever.
Forever.
I don't know. I think I had more of a passion for it when I first started out, and then it not that it died down, but I've never felt fully accomplished in my career or in my professional life. Like when I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. A lot of people know what they want to be since they're kids, and
Correct.
that wasn't the case for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to be, but my parents pushed me towards that field. So when I went to school, my high school specialized in like medical uh, careers such as like dentistry, nursing, and then my senior year, the paramedic or the EMS program got introduced, and I found it more interesting than the nursing, so I went for it, and that's
And
how that went.
I don't think you're alone. When you say you don't know what to do right after high school. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'm one that, yeah, I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna do criminal justice and this and that, and I ended up being a welder.
Yeah,
So I went
like
from,
not good.
yeah, I'm gonna go from being a police officer possibly into like customs or
Yeah.
border patrol, and then I ended up coming into the welding industry. So it was a very drastic 180.
Change.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
as to what I was planning to do and then reality, right?
Yeah.
So definitely, but hey, I liked it. So
It's like they say, the more you plan, the less likely it's gonna happen the way you plan it. So
yeah, yeah, I know. So you're an EMT right now, right? You
yes.
said okay. And what is that one factor that said, you know what, it's welding?
It's funny. So maybe about a year ago, I started looking at because I don't know. I've always had not like an existential crisis, but more of like a what do I want? I've always known what I want like in my personal life, but in my professional life, I've always had this void that of like not knowing. Like I was just kind of working because you have to pay your bills and you have to be an adult and do life and stuff like that. So, but I was like, what can I do? What's something that I can do that will like fulfill me? And ever since I was young, I've been on my own since I was like 19, just out of choice. And I've always been very used to hard labor. I did a lot of general labor positions when I started working from about like 20 to 24 years old. I did a lot of that kind of work.
Okay.
Um,
What type of you mentioned general labor, but like what
mhm.
type of companies?
It was, I think I mentioned to you recently that I worked for a pork processing plant up in Oklahoma.
Okay.
So the pig comes in alive, they butcher it, and then it gets sent out, in the different cuts to,
Okay.
it gets distributed that way. I also, so we were there, they put us like in these, it's like conveyor belts that just keep pulling the meat along, and you just kind of have to grab a piece and
Assembly
cut.
line.
Yeah, there you go, assembly line.
Yeah.
So not assembly but disassembly for the pork.
Pretty much.
So
Poor thing.
yeah, for real. I mean, it was an experience for sure. Oklahoma's a very different place.
Yeah.
Here in the valley, pues es pura raza. In Oklahoma, there's not so much raza, so
Yeah.
it was almost like culture shock. But I also worked for Ocean Spray, the cranberry juice company. I worked I forget if it's Toma or Wausau, because I was in Wisconsin for a bit. But I was in one of the, if not the largest receiving plant for the cranberry, like the fruit. I also worked, where else? In East Bay, which is also in Wisconsin. It's a sporting goods warehouse, so you just go and you pick orders, and then you go pack them and then you send them out. So it's kind of like Amazon, but for sporting goods, and they have a lot of different things.
So basically, you've done an array of, I would say odd jobs, right?
Very random.
But because everyone has a different niche to what you got to do in that, in that one factory or whatever, in that one assembly line.
Yes.
And you are here from the valley, right? It's gonna lead to my question.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've lived here in the valley pretty much all my life. My
Okay.
family and I, we moved here when I was about 8 years old. So I'm originally from Cuernavaca, Morelos,
Okay.
but I have lived in the valley my whole life.
Okay. So the fact that you're here from the valley, a lot of people can relate to that, right? Like, hey, I'm here from the valley. It's very hard for me to just say, hey, I'm just gonna go move over to Oklahoma, right? How was that
Yeah.
experience for you?
Honestly, I mean, at first it was kind of scary. I didn't know what to expect. When I was younger, my family and I didn't get to travel a lot, so it was definitely, I was with, an old friend of mine, so I wasn't completely alone, but at the same time, there were just things that I had to kind of get over, by myself, because it was my first time getting out of the valley, and just being more open to what the world, or like within the U.S. at least, because
Yeah.
I haven't left the U.S.
The world of
really.
the U.S.
Yeah, the world within the U.S.
Yeah.
To see what it had to offer, to see how different it was.
Okay.
So I think it was more that, it was more culture shock, because down here, the valleys, it's very easy, very comfortable living.
It's comfortable for us, right? It's
Yeah,
comfortable
definitely.
because we're from here. We understand our language. I mean, we have, even myself, I'm one that I can not finish a sentence and like start it in English and finish it
In
in
Spanish,
English. I have to
yeah.
I'll put words everywhere, and the funny thing is that nobody even thinks it's weird because we're from here. I'll start in
Yeah.
English and I'll start in English, finish in Spanish, and nobody will call me out on it.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's our thing, that's here in the valley. So definitely when you go to Oklahoma and you try to pull that,
Well, I also lived in Louisiana, and that was an experience, because their accent over there is very,
it's called Cajun.
yeah, there you go, the Cajun accent. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, after living there for half a year to 8-9 months, I mean, it kind of stuck to me a little bit. So when I came back down and I would talk to some of my friends, a little bit of like Cajun accent,
Yeah.
and it's not like I tried. It's just you get used to hearing it, so you kind of like reciprocate it at some point,
Yeah.
and it becomes part of your vocabulary. Kind of like hear how they're like, I don't know, el puro 956 que dicen ahora, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
only people from here understand what that means, because it's part of our culture.
So with this new venture that you got into, which is welding, right? A lot of the jobs, we have some local. I mean, we have, the Port of Brownsville, which are our major companies. We have SpaceX, which they're building rockets, We have the new LNG plants that are promising to spur up a lot of jobs, right? However, that is not the only thing that exists when you are a welder. You know, you have a lot of other shops that are willing to hire. You have the opportunity to create your own thing. You know, for you to make your own money, and you have out of state jobs out of at least out of this area. You know, I know Corpus is a big area, Houston, Dallas area, Louisiana, Missouri, South Carolina. You know, it's a limited the amount of places that you could find a job, right? However, a
Definitely.
lot of it is going to require you for the vast majority of it is for you to travel, you know, and that's why I was asking these questions. You know, that facility you're gonna have to just up and like, hey, somebody's
Just
offering
take
me a
off.
job, and I gotta leave. And usually in this industry, it comes within a matter of days. You know, so you need to be ready in different ways. You need to be ready financially, mentally, you know, and
No,
we all have
definitely.
dependents here. You know, we have our wives, our husbands, our relatives. We have, you know, business partners, whatever it is that we all have different situations, right? So whatever that is, they also need to be understanding that, hey, this is where the job is going. Ooh, I'm out. You know, I
Yeah.
have to leave. If, you know, if I want to create this financial stability, I have to leave, right? Now there
Yes.
are other arrangements, you know, where let's go, you know, or let me settle in over there first, and then you can make arrangements, right? Because I do see that a lot here in the valley that when people travel to work, I'm the one traveling and that's it. And you know, lately I have been seeing it though, where like a lot of our students, and specifically, they're like, "Well, I want to take my wife and I want to take my kids," you know, which is cool. You know, I mean, why the separation? You know, there's nothing that says you have to be separated in order for this to work,
Definitely, yeah.
right? So, but it is a custom. I've seen it throughout years. You know that that is how we're wired because we're very family oriented, right? So the
Yeah.
fact that we take off with our spouses and we leave, but what about my parents and what about my grandma? What about this and that? So I don't want to leave them behind either, you know. So that then creates the whole, well, everybody just stays here and I move to work and then I'll just come visit you guys, you know. So
Yeah. You know
so
what's crazy? I think it is very much valley culture for people to feel. I feel like that's why people get tied down to the valley because, it's like, oh, my grandparents, were raised here, my parents were raised here, and now I was raised here. And, we're very close to our elders and our family, you know what I mean? So, and I feel like eventually people are like, well, I'll just stay here so that I don't disregard my family. But I think that with us, like the younger generations, we're not scared to venture out. Not that, older generations were scared. It's just, it, like, with times, different generations, things change. And I think at the same time, we all feel like we need to find ourselves in the world. And I mean, even though the valley, it's like a world of its own, it's a very small world. And I feel like there's not, the mentality down here is very, still very conservative,
it's very
very
family
family
oriented.
oriented. People are a little more still to themselves.
Yeah.
And then if you go further up, like even in Austin, Houston, San Antonio, there's people that are more flamboyant in the sense that, like, I don't know, they're not necessarily scared to be unapologetically
Yeah.
themselves, because they know they're not going to be judged maybe the way they're going to be here.
Yeah.
As far as the traveling goes, I think whenever you have that support system that's willing to say, hey, you know what, you need to do what you need to do for your future, go ahead and do it. That definitely helps a lot.
Do you think you have a good support system, and who, if you do, who is it?
I do. Shout out to my wife, Elizabeth.
Okay, perfect, awesome. Thank you for helping us out. Get
Yes.
her a job.
She is her and my mom. They are
Okay.
both my biggest supporters. You know, anything that I've ever wanted to do, I went on like an online business venture. My wife backed me up on that 100%, but I ended up finding out that it wasn't my thing.
Okay.
So I was kind of like, okay, I'll throw that on the back burner. Maybe in the future.
But you learned
Um,
something, I'm pretty sure,
oh,
in that
definitely.
process.
I learned a lot of things that I didn't like, you know, about the online business world. Um, and that I think that's also one thing that pushed me more to be like, you know what, like why don't I just use the skills that I know I have instead of trying to find, you know, something else that I don't really know if I'm going to be successful in because I'm not entirely interested in it. And because I've always been more of like a hard physical labor, like I get more um I don't know. I feel like I accomplish a lot more when I actually do something like with my hands or, you know, with my hard
Yeah.
work. You know what I mean?
So currently, you're still a student there with us, right?
Yes.
You still have not too much though. You don't have a long way to go. I mean, you're an excellent student. You know, as far as
Oh, thank you.
attendance, being there, you know, actually working and you know doing your what you have to do to learn, right? Asking the right questions, doing that. I see that you do that very well. As a matter of fact, I
Thank
believe
you.
it was last week, right, that you went ahead and made already did a pre-test.
Yes, I did.
All right. I mean,
um,
that's great. You know, to have a current student taking those steps, that's awesome. I mean, that's what we as a school strive for. Like to encourage you guys to like let's go. You know,
yeah.
if you haven't graduated, we can work around graduation. Let's get you. You know, let's get you out there for the experience at least. You know.
Yeah.
So how was that experience for you? You know, going to an employer
Mhm.
that you know it's not the people you're accustomed to, school, your instructors, you know, being kind of like pampered in a way, even
A
though you're
little. Yeah, I
you
mean,
know. So
it's a
when
comfort zone
it's
for
a comfort
sure.
zone,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, that's a better choice of words. It's a comfort zone. If you fail, that's fine, you're in school, right?
Mhm.
But once you switch that and now you have a person that goes by a title of a tester, you know, everything
It was a
changes.
little intimidating.
Okay,
I'm
so
not gonna lie.
and
It was an interesting experience, but it was more of it was one of those situations where I was like, okay, I'm kind of iffy about going, but because since it was a pre-test and not a site test, the place that they sent me to, it didn't look very official to begin with, you know, and I think that's something that a lot of people or some students a little heads up. Some pre-test sites are gonna be a little shady, a little bit. Especially if Google Maps pictures aren't updated. But you know, I ended up saying, you know what, I'm soy muy aventada. Like I'm not scared to like go
so
out
you
and do
just sent your
things.
location to somebody and you went.
Oh, I definitely told my wife this is where I'm at. I turned on my my location on WhatsApp, and I told her if I don't return in like 3 to 4 hours,
Track me.
just track me. Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, that's
um.
definitely not something that you went up to us, you know, for that. And you know, we did a little bit of research on the company and you
Yes,
know,
yes. And well, that
so
was also my bad. I filled out a couple of application at different job sites, so I didn't necessarily remember which one out of all of them it could have been until I finally realized that it was just the last one that I had filled out.
okay.
So then they sent me to go do the pre-test, and I got there. The man that I met there was very, very nice. Mr. Raul, he, you know, I got there. So that's another thing for students who are wanting to go into this. Just be aware that they're not always going to be ready for you when you get there, and that's just a hard reality of pre-testing, I think, especially if, you know, the office staff don't notify the testing or the pre-test site that you're going to be going, which is what happened to me. The man wasn't aware that I was going, but luckily I showed up early, so I called the office, they called Mr. Raul, and then he showed up. Then when he got there, you know, they had to well, the plates weren't even prepped for me, so I grinded my own plates, which is fine. You know, that's papitas compared to, like, you know, the nerves of actually having to sit there and weld the test.
Yeah.
But it took forever because they were hand cut with a hand torch.
Okay.
So it was a little bit. It was just more taxing because I had to do all that work So by the time I got to weld, I was just a little bit tired. I was like, okay. And my hands were shaky from the grinder, so it didn't help my stability when I started welding.
So, in the welding industry, which is also the fabrication industry, steel fabrication, you have blueprints that you have to turn from a 2D into a real life object, right? And there is a criteria or a way of doing things if everything flows right. But you know how you've heard, like, if something can go wrong, it will.
Yeah.
That is very normal in the fabrication industry.
Yeah.
You have so many factors, and not all of them are gonna be where they should be. Okay, so like well, one of the machines is not working, so now you have to redo the process how you're gonna be welding. So if you were supposed to finish in 1 hour, now it takes you 4. And all these factors, and it's very normal. You're gonna have to get used to getting the job done, basically. You have an employer on one end. In this case,
Definitely.
it was for a pre-employment test, right? Saying, hey, we need this done, and then we got the end product, and we need it done.
Yeah.
So how we do it, at all times being safe about it, though, because you
Definitely.
never want to cut corners either, where you're gonna put your safety at risk, right? But from there to getting it done, and that's specifically what I loved about welding. That just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
That's
what I like about it too.
So they would tell us, like, okay, so there's this project and we need to finish it in 12 hours. All right, get out of my way. Let's do it. Like, how many of us is it going to be? Is it doable? If it's not, we're going to make it doable.
Yes.
I don't know how I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to make it happen.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I think that's why I find so much, I don't know, it's very satisfying to know that, you need to get something done and you know what the end result is going to be.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, you have to make this specific structure, or I don't know, like anything really, and you know that's at the end, that's what you're going to get. It's not like we'll see how the day goes and we'll see how much we get done. No, like, you have to be on top of your even like time wise, like you can't just take forever to finish the job.
I think I could personally say that in my ventures that I've done throughout my career, that if there's one thing I've gotten from welding, is specifically that, that desire to, or that need to just finish something. And I think I can transfer that out from welding, which into, in this case, let's say business, right? That you have a specific task in hand and you need to knock it out. And sometimes I'll even talk to myself like, all right, just shut up, man, and we're just gonna do this. We just gotta get this done,
Yeah.
And that's something that I would constantly, be saying when I was a welder, right? So it's like, I guess I've always brought that along.
You transferred your habits to it.
Yeah. So and it's fun, and that's one of the reasons that I loved welding. Once you put that hood on, you're in the dark.
Oh, you're in the zone.
You're in the zone. You're just concentrating on that,
and
and you're rocking and rolling. So that's something that's always been pretty fun to me. I like it more as a hobby now.
Okay.
Because it gets taxing. I mean, the welding industry, it's about production. So whoever you're working with, whether you're at SpaceX, whether you're at the port, shipyard, wherever you're at, they want to see production. They want to see things getting done. And as a welder, you're the expert, and then you have your employer, which is the one that signs your checks, right? So it's, I've always given this this philosophy, right, where it's like, hey, you're the expert. Here's the one that's paying. You need to deliver, and the more you're able to deliver, the more you can charge. And that's going to come with experience, right? To people who say, well, I want to get paid X amount, it is possible. I mean, I know welders that make over $100 an hour. It's not one that's coming out from my school. I can promise you that. It's not.
Yeah.
What we aim to deliver is the enough skill set to get you into the industry. Yeah. And over the years, we've had students that have become CWIs, certified welding inspectors, that have gone on to learn other parts of the welding industry, become fabricators. They've learned sub-arc welding, TIG welding, you know, and that's on the merit of them, not on the school. We gave them the push into the industry, and then from there, heck, it just
Yeah,
spreads
like it's on
out.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on you, and we're so proud of it, right? But at the end of the day, we're more proud of the student because you can push this to wherever you like. You know, you can take it as far as you want. Okay, so you know that's one of the cool things that as an educator in vocational trades, you know that you know even sometimes we've even gone to a point like this guy is being lazy.
No,
Like he's not gonna make it. And then like 3 months down the road, hey, no, pues he's working at this company. A year later, no, he's already a supervisor. Like, what? This
like
guy,
how?
the lazy one? You know, and it just
El de
happens.
mala
You know,
fama.
you never know. You never know, you know.
Yeah.
The person who necessarily didn't have the best attendance, you know, it just outshines everybody, you know. And we've had those cases, you know, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to go
You know
through all
what? I
that
mean, at the end
population.
of the day, you gotta grow. You know, you gotta also mature a little bit whenever you start, like in any industry, especially if you really, really like it. You end up finding out, you know, sooner or later that bad habits like going in late or, I don't know, calling in often, like at the end of the day, it doesn't pay off. You know, it doesn't do you any benefit. So I mean, I like hearing stories like that. Like whenever el que no valía, like en el salón, like all of a sudden it's like the top dog down the line. It's
Yeah,
like,
it
hey, good
happens.
for you, man. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome. I think that growth is what we all want to achieve one day.
Okay, so yourself, where in the point you're at right now, sitting in this podcast, how ready do you think you are for the welding workforce?
I think I'm very ready, honestly. I don't know. Like I don't. Do I get nervous? Yes, I do. I get nervous, but that's always come with like testing and things like that. But when it comes to actually like going to work, nunca me he rajado. Like nunca le he sacado el trabajo. I've always shown up, and even if I don't know how to do something, I will find a way to learn it so that I can do it well. Because I learned that from my mom. My mom is the one that taught me my my good work ethic, and hey, if you don't know, ask.
Yeah.
If you don't speak up, no one's gonna hear you. Like you gotta, and you also gotta vouch for yourself. You gotta advocate for yourself. So if it's like, oh, if you just stay quiet all the time, you're never gonna learn. So going back to your question, I do feel ready, but because I know that I will still find a way to do something if I don't know how to do it. There's a lot
By
of things I
asking
don't know.
questions.
Oh, yeah, by asking questions. I mean, I don't know how to read blueprints, but I know I'm going to learn that eventually. I'm familiar with welding symbols, but I'm sure not all of them. Or maybe one's going to catch me off guard one day and I'm going to be like,
And then you ask.
yes. And that's
And then
when
you
and
ask.
that's when I'll
Yeah.
ask.
Exactly. So, why did you choose our school in specific, Southern Industrial?
To be quite honest, it's because it was in my budget.
Okay.
I went to a couple of local schools, and it was a lot. And time frame wise, I have some goals that I want to be able to achieve within, hopefully the next 5 or so-ish years. And I just wanted to get going. So, I liked, the pricing. I found it very affordable for me personally, and the time frame. Not just that, but, I still have to work. I can't be a full time student because, I mean, my wife works as well, but, we wouldn't be able to make it just on one income.
Correct.
So, I talked to my wife and she was like, well, I mean, see if maybe anybody would be willing to take you maybe a couple days out of the week at least so you don't miss out on a whole week of work, things like that. And I remember when I went over and did the 2-hour course with you, and you said, no, like, we have to make this happen for you somehow. The fact that you were also willing to be there in a way for me and for my future, like, you were willing to invest whatever time I did have to go to school. And the fact that that worked, because at first I was only going to school one day out of the week. I just recently changed it to 2 days out of the week. But
I heard.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, your course is usually what, like 8 weeks long?
Correct.
So by the time, if I had stuck to one day out of the week, I probably would have finished in like 30 weeks. I could be doing that math wrong, but I can't do math in my head. So um, when I did two, I was like, oh, maybe I'll shorten it, by a couple of days. So I don't know. I like that you guys were able to work with me and that I didn't feel like, damn, I can't just go to school because I have to work.
Correct. What do you think, since you visited several schools, right? What do you think were the differences in price?
Whew. Well, there was one that was like 25,000. It was a year long, but
So,
it
but
was a
like,
lot.
but what I mean, not in price maybe, but
Uh huh.
the services offered. What were the differences you think?
Oh, okay, okay. So I don't remember which school it was, to be completely.
Yeah, that's fine.
Uh, but there was one that I called, and I think I had to take the fitter pipe welder course before getting into structural or combination welder. Which, I mean, in a way I was like, okay, I understand. Like, you have to start somewhere to then go to the next level and so on and so forth. But for me, it was like I want to learn at least the basics, of it. Like, I don't. Not that I didn't want to get super technical with it, because everybody has their own way of going about, your certification or your license, welding license. But that was one thing. There was another. I don't know. Like, it's been a minute, to be honest, but I remember that being one of the biggest differences in the courses. Oh, that's another thing. I think everything was very like separate. Like, you couldn't, like, here with you guys, I've learned how to do a little bit of everything. I haven't, welded pipe too much, but I got to weld a little bit of pipe. Um, and the other school, I did ask, like, well, if I want to do pipe and I want to also learn TIG, flux core, or MIG, you know, whatever other type, they said, oh no, well, you would have to, like, then take the course the following semester. So that was a little
Time consuming.
yeah, yeah, because it's I wasn't gonna be able to do what I wanted to do from the get go. I was gonna have to just kind of spend a year doing one thing and then another year doing the next thing.
Yeah.
And for me, it just wasn't viable. It wasn't what I wanted.
Okay, so now let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you said we're one of the most affordable schools, right? I mean, technically we are with all the hours that we offer within the course. But when you
Mm-hmm.
heard that price tag, because you're one of our students that are paying cash, right?
Yes.
When you heard that price tag at almost $6,000, what was your thought?
Con madres.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
honestly. But
Okay.
it just helps that my wife and I, we're actually pretty good about saving,
Okay.
so.
Because in my mind, I mean, yes, it's 6,000 is less than 25,000. I get it, but $6,000 is a lot of money.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. There was a time where I didn't have 25 bucks to my name. So, I don't want to seem pretentious and say, oh, 5,000 like pocket change. No, 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 no.
Yeah, no.
Like, I happened to have the available funds, when I started school. But it helps that you guys do payment plans, and I was still working. So I was able, it was like an added bill that I was able to cover. So, and the fact that you guys also were able to work with me on the payment, my weekly payment, because I do pay weekly with you guys, and I just kind of administered it on my own. Like, okay, if I get paid every 2 weeks, this is how much I need to save so that I can cover the payment for those 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So it made it a lot easier. I'm not gonna say that it was, just, oh yeah, here you go.
Yeah, no, no, no.
I didn't pay it all in one payment, but it helped, that you guys were able to work with me on that.
Well, I'm very glad that you took the decisions that you have as up to this point. Those monies that cost, because instructors get paid, staff gets paid, and we work with you like in your goals. We do so many things, right? And then materials and gases and all these factors that are involved, right? They're your investment into your future at the end of the day, right? So yes, it does. It is gonna come with a price tag, but at the end of the day, it's better than, let's say, getting into debt with a second car that you really didn't need, but it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like you got. There's that one car that I have my transportation, but this one you have to
Yeah,
have
it's
it.
like
So
it's my leisure car.
Yeah, my leisure car. My weekend car.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, I'm one to blame. I love to have that leisure stuff. Like, but when you're in the development stage of your career of where's life gonna take me, it's good to double think about those leisures and say, hey, if I'm gonna spend and I'm gonna get into some sort of debt, would it be wise to look at becoming an electrician, a welder, a CDO, a truck driver, whatever it is, welding is one of the options, but there are so many options, okay?
So many. I mean, the
Yeah.
blue collar field is vast.
Yes.
You have so many options. I was actually for a second I thought about going into either HVAC or being an electrician, but there's something about welding that I was like, it's just so cool. Like, how can you not think welding is like badass? I don't know.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up with this. Thank you for all the inside information that you provided us.
For
I just
sure.
want people to know, that are going to be watching this, that, the thought process behind, you did it. You're going to be very successful. More than sure than that. You're already coming to with some other employers on the day after tomorrow already, right?
Yes,
So
because I mean, I passed a previous test, but unfortunately, they called me the next day saying they weren't hiring anymore, which is also
part of it.
it's also part of it.
Yeah.
You'll have you think the door's gonna be wide open for you to come through, and you're like, okay, and then as soon as you're gonna pass the door, it like shuts, and they're like, sorry, the house is full.
Yeah. And it's gonna happen,
Yeah,
and it's not
it's
only in this
normal.
industry; it's in every other industry.
Yeah,
Right?
no one's
So-
gonna not that agüites. Like
Exactly.
eventually another one will open. So
Exactly. So thank you so much for sharing all this information with us, right? I can't thank you
Of
enough, right, for
course.
taking the time out of your day. I believe you even said you were gonna leave a little bit early from work.
I did. I left early
So-
from work to come and do this, but
Okay.
I mean,
So
I was
alright.
I was good with that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Daphne.
No, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.